Hello and welcome to a brand new season of GPL Express here on TV3. So one down, 33 more to go. A new Ghana Premier League season began last week, and so we had our eyes everywhere at the various league centres to bring you the stories that matter here on GPL Express. My name is Juliet Bill. Be our guest in the next 30 minutes. So coming up in the next 30 minutes, we take a look at how the newly promoted teams fared on match day 1. Some key signings have already started proving their worth. We take a critical look at their performance. And Ashcote have looked gloomy for the past 2 seasons. The Miners hope for a better 2021-2022 campaign. You're welcome back. Now, there were mixed results for all of last season's top 4, with hearts frustrated as Asante Kotoko and Bechem United recorded statement wins. Here is a review of match week 1.
Hatzabok against Legon Cities. They were hammered, actually humiliated with that Athletic Casablanca of Morocco.
Champions Hatzabok were held in frustrating stalemate by Legon Cities. The 5th consecutive time the Phobians have failed to win their opening game.
Brilliant play from that's Believer, the mascot of Dreams FC.
Asante Kotoko were in a 6-minute astonishing form to wipe out Dreams FC. Teenagers Fatawi Shahaku and Isaac Opon were the bright spots.
For his own standards.
Yep, it is Dreams. Fatawi Sahaku, lovely play. Fatawi Sahaku. This is magical. Asma's delivery. Here is Opon! And what a dream debut! And this is an absolute beauty. Katako up by 3-1 against Dreams.
Wafa were hatched by Zubairu Ibrahim strike for King Faisal in Kumasi. With the Diana Stars drawing away at Karela United, Ashanti Gold backed home all 3 points at 11 Wonders. Whilst Bechem United thumped Mediema SC.
You're still watching GPL Express here on TV3, and with me now to talk through some of the big highlights of match day 1 is Nana Jesse Dakwa, who is a commentator with Star Times. And I thank you very much for joining me here, the first edition.
It's good to be here.
Nana, let's talk about the performance, that is the newcomers in the Premier League, how they fared. I'm sure they gave good account of themselves.
Well, I'll start off with Accra Lions, who began their top flight football with a game against Elmina Sharks last Friday on the opening day. Their very first appearance in the top flight, but they gave a good account of themselves. Here's a team that was formed somewhere around 2015, but in 6 years, they're in the Premier League. They have a philosophy where they groom and nurture young talents and sell them for the foreign market, with another focus of playing in the Ghanaian top flight. So they realized that dream this term, and on match day 1, they were nearly beaten. They had to come from a goal down to equalize against a relatively experienced and a new-look Elmina Sharks team. The outcome of that game at the Accra Stadium on day 1 was a true reflection of what really happened. The goal scorer of Accra Lions actually scored 21 goals in the Division 1 League to propel them into the Premier League. And he announced himself on the top flight by scoring on day 1. For Sharks, I think they met a match in young talent, and clearly Accra Lions to give us some good football going forward. Then to Bibiani Gold Stars. They also, made history by qualifying for the first time in the history of the club from Zone 2.
Okay.
A lot of expectations from them. They're hugely motivated for this season. They've been handed a new bus by a mining company. They got a new kit sponsorship deal, brought in a new experienced coach in Michael Osei, and he had that opportunity to do pre-season by himself. And so on match day 1, the entire township was behind them. and they didn't disappoint. It was a good win for them, and it's positive for the start of the campaign for them in the top flight. RTU returns, you know, the most popular and the biggest amongst the newly promoted sides. The people of Tamale were so expectant of Premier League football, and so RTU's qualification was something they were looking forward to. They qualified, and Olympics came to town on day one. Olympics with a better squad, an experienced squad, and you know, a very sound technical direction in an Walker. So for RTU to have been able to pull the point from that game, coming from a goal down to score through the penalty, I think is a positive start. Sure. Generally, the three teams that got promoted, they didn't lose on day one, and it's somewhat of a positive signal.
That's a good note, but we'll be talking about the debutants. That is some of the new boys, and clubs were busy in the transfer window as they augmented their squads for the seasons of this season's Ghana Premier League. And week one saw some key signings showing up for their club to save the day. Francis Hima in this report takes a look at how the key debutants fared on match day one.
Making their debuts in the Ghana Premier League, most of the debutants were unfazed. In the off-season, most of the clubs were aggressive in the transfer market, signing players and offloading those that were considered surplus to requirements. Chief among the top performers were Fatau Isahaku, one of the most talked about players in Ghana football. The 2020 Under-20 AFCON MVP dazzled in his first game in the top flight. Isahaku danced past 4 Asante Kotoko defenders before slotting into the net for the Dreams FC's only goal of the game. Kotoko's last gasp heroics against Dreams came through Isaac Opon's goal beyond the 80th minute. He scored and assisted twice as Kotoko regained supremacy at the Accra Sports Stadium. Augustine Okra is not new to the Ghana Premier League, but Bechem United fans witnessed a great deal of good football when their side beat Medeama 4-0. Okra was a toast of the action in the Bono region. After shining through the Division 1 league last season, RTU faced Great Olympics, who enjoyed a stunning season last term. After going behind, RTU equalized through a Ghana Premier League debutant, David Abagna, who scored from 12 yards to give the home fans something to shout about. It seemed a weekend for debutants, with Eric Oforientri, Emmanuel Avonyo and Abdulaziz Dogo shining for Legon Cities, Bechem United and Karela United respectively. They have announced themselves the grandest way possible. These players have begun life at their new clubs in a stunning fashion, and the prospects look great. The Ghana Premier League clubs will have to prepare for these players, who will carry the hopes of their clubs.
Interesting for some of the players. And now, who was your top man, the debutant?
It's dicey, but you know, from that magical moment, from that astonishing moment at the Accra Sports Stadium from Fatau Isahaku, the Under-20 gold winner from Mauritania last year, it will be difficult to skip past him as the best debutant. But for Isaac Opon to have come to turn the game around for Asante Kotoko against Dreams FC, he's a serious contender. There's a guy from Bechem United called Avonyo. He scored a brace in that win over Medeama. Augustine Okra scored from the center of the park against Medeama on his second debut for Bechem United. So some of them really lived up to it. They gave positive indications of why we should look out for them in this season's Premier League.
Right, and interestingly, Kumasi Asante Kotoko, like you mentioned, Isaac Opon in there, but Kumasi Asante Kotoko showed a lot of grit in their game that they played in the first or match week 1. For Kotoko to have 8 minutes left on the clock, for them to come back to be able to defeat Dreams FC, I thought it was remarkable for the Porcupine Warriors.
I think strategically they've planned what they really want to do with this club. I had a lot of people speaking against the management for their recruitment policy, going for players who were relatively unknown from second division teams and academies, going to a pre-season tour of Dubai and not winning a game, returning and kickstarting your Premier League.
With the jalabia, you know, make it.
Yeah, they became a subject of talk, the way they were dressed up and all that. But you go into the first game of your Premier League under a new coach. You brought in as many as 16 players. At the 84th minute, you are down by 1-0. The coach decides to
bring in some changes.
Tweak formation, bring in new personnel, and it turns the team around. They went trophyless last season. They brought a coach who was third behind them, gave him the opportunity to do pre-season, get the right players that he desired they could play for Asante Kotoko and do well. And what happened is exactly what Prosper Nete Odum has been teaching these guys to do. If you are at the stadium and closer to where he was coaching from, all he was telling them was to keep the shape, do not give the balls away, and ensure they are not tactically indisciplined. Stick to the instructions, and it was going to pay off. And eventually, it paid off for them.
And good for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Hopefully, they get to keep that momentum going in this season to, of course, get their fans happy because they are looking for that trophy. But Medeama struggling on match day 1.
You know, in the 2 truncated seasons, Medeama were the big deal.
Yeah.
They seemed to be flying high, but some way, somehow, those leagues didn't really come to an end. Yes, last season was a full season for Medeama. They lost their coach to Hasselhoff, who eventually won the trophy for them. So, a new season, and they bring in a new coach from Techiman 11 Wonders. I would say this is the biggest job for Ignatius Osefo. So he's been at Liberty as an assistant, he's been at Ashanti Gold, then he landed this, you know, Techiman Wonders job.
Yeah.
Then Medeama brings him. Medeama has lost Richard Boadu and Samuel Appiah.
Their goalkeeper as well.
Of course, the best, one of the best in the country. Yeah. So they're trying to build a new team altogether. On day 1, I've heard the spokesperson say the result of the game cannot necessarily be blamed on the fact that the boys are not good. But he thinks they took some COVID-19 jabs and they didn't recover in time. It had a toll on their, physicality for that game. I don't know about that, but whatever be the case,
credit to Bechem United.
You don't have to take anything away from Bechem United. There were 2 red cards in that game, but Medeama really have to put their house in order because a lot is expected from them. They were expected to be the 3rd force or the 4th force, but they're not really showing they're capable of doing that. At least in the last season, they didn't show any of that, and they've lost day 1. They need to pick up their pieces and get good results coming their way. Right,
Nana Jesse Dakwade, we are going for a break, but when we come back, we turn our attention to the camp of King Faisal, who emerged victorious over Wafa. Stay with us. So you're welcome back to GPL Express here on TV3, and I'm still here with Nana Jesse Dakwa. But now, last season they escaped relegation by the skin of their teeth, and this season they began on a good note. King Faisal were amongst the 5 teams who recorded victory on the opening weekend. The slim win gives a fair idea of the kind of season the Inshallah boys are going to have, and Nana Ikuya Amankwa explores further in this report.
It's usually a tough task starting a season against a side as decent as Wafa. King Faisal were handed that tough job in this campaign. On the opening weekend of the season, Wafa travelled to Kumasi to face King Faisal, who last season survived a relegation scare. But despite the poor quality, the Kumasi-based side showed they produced a great win over a strong Ghana Premier League side. The 1-0 win could serve as a springboard to achieve the season's target.
Target is to get mid-table in the league and then just to do well and just don't struggle like we struggled before. We have the big guns there, but we're going to rough shoulder with them. If we get there, that is a plus for us. If we don't get there and then we are in the middle of the table, we are okay. But what is most important is that we should develop players and get them out of the country, just as we did, or even locally, so that at least the bankroll is solely allowed users. So if you don't develop players, the financing is very difficult.
Following the departure of Prosper Nate to Asante Kotoko in the off-season, Emmanuel Sarkodie was deemed surplus to requirement. But he is one of the men King Faisal will count on to have a successful campaign.
The coach told me that I won't get enough playing time, and then I look upon the teams and then I chose King Faisal because King Faisal was the best option for me. I'm just giving my best, and then with my best, I think King Faisal will go far. Our target is we have to be in the top 4.
That 1-0 win last weekend was a good start. 3 points in the bag, no injuries, and the players looking tight-knit minute by minute, expecting no surprises. Enoch Morrison 6 more.
We are well prepared and we are very focused. We have our rhythm at the end of the league last season. We are following the same rhythm and we are well prepared and the confidence is high. So I think we will have a better position on the table.
We're still staying in the Ashanti region, and Ash Gold has been wilting in the past 2 seasons, caused partly by multiple unfortunate injuries and also ownership instability. Things could go beautifully for them, or the whole show could also be a calamity this season. And Kelvin Osunsa has more.
Ashanti Gold has been one of the disruptors of the presumed order of the GPL. But until they finish in the top 4, questions will linger about their mental fortitude. Last season was another of substandard results, and they acted ruthlessly in getting Ernest Thompson Korte. The Miners opened their GPL account with a 1-0 win at Techiman 11 Wonders. Korte reveals their target is to make the top 4 this campaign.
Our targets, and then winning the league is an icing on the cake. So for the starter, we're looking at being in the top 4 because Ash Gold is one of the biggest clubs in Ghana. When you take out Hearts of Oak and Kumasi Asante Kotoko, I believe Ash Gold is the next biggest club in Ghana, and our place will be in the top 4, and that is what we are working towards.
Richard Osayajaman is the captain of the team. With the experience gathered at Brekum Chelsea and Asante Kotoko, the defender hopes to lead the club to challenge for every trophy.
Last season, we played final, MTN FA Cup final. So this time around, we need the league and the FA Cup too. Yeah, we are going for all that because we are playing against the Hearts of Oak, the champions, and Kumasi Asante Kotoko at the same time, Aduana and Mediama too. So we need to push hard.
The Obuasi-based club has been notoriously cautious with purchases. As part owner Dr. Kweku Frimpong continues to rule the roost, Deputy CEO and Sporting Director Albert Comey ropes in as the eyes and ears actually running the show. Ash Gold are currently under investigations over a match-fixing scandal in the 2020-2021 GPL. They have been charged with inter-allies on counts of misconduct. Though the outcome of investigations is yet to be known, Administrative Manager Daniel Beale says it won't be a distraction.
We are very focused. We intend to concentrate on what we have as a club. Our objectives, that is to do well in every competition. And then, as you know, we performed very, very well even after these allegations leveled against the club. This season, nothing has changed as of now. We are still fully concentrated on our target and our objectives as a club.
The Lenkley and the people of Obuasi have not enjoyed performances of the club like they did in the late 90s and early 2000s. After club legend Thomas Gia failed to achieve a set target, the hope is the club does considerably better this year.
You're still watching GPL Express here on TV3. Nana, King Faisal, they managed to get a win over Wafa, who have lost some players. Of course, they've lost their coach as well. And Ashanti Gold also managing a win there with this match-fixing scandal. Still lingering on. We're hoping to see the outcome. But I thought it was a positive result for them.
Yes, for King Faisal. You know, I was at the stadium in Sogakope on the final of the Premier League when they held Liberty to a goalless draw to stay in the Premier League, and you could tell from the excitement that they demonstrated there that they were really in to stay again in the new season. Because if you take a look at this King Faisal team, they do not lack quality. I watched many games and I was trying to figure out why they were not winning games. They had one of the top scorers.
They're conceding a lot.
Yes, they had one of the top scorers in the Premier League, in Kwam Boateng. but they sold him to Orlando Pirates. Then the man who was basically responsible for their stay, Fatah Danlad Ibrahim, goes back to Asante Kotoko from his loan. They bring in Frank Boateng, whom Mediama parted ways with. They brought in Osman Ibrahim on loan from Kotoko to replace Kwame Boateng. They lost Frimpong Boateng, and they've equally brought in other signings to complement the efforts of the already existing players. Wafa have lost a couple of players. They lost Enoch Esubontin to Accra Savok. They lost their coach. Their former captain Ibrahim has left. But you want to take nothing from Kim Faisal. They wanted it the most, and they got the positive results. So it gives Kim Faisal some hope that their survival on the last of the Premier League was no fluke. It's a work in progress, and I think they will come good during the course of the season.
And Ashanti Gold as well.
Another team with a new coach. They brought in Ernest Thompson Kote, the former coach of Ibusunya Dwarfs, to get this team back in shape and try to get them challenging for honors. If you look across the Ashanti Gold team, they've got genuine quality, and most of them stayed. Amos Adai stayed on, Osea Jiman stayed. They reinforced, as a matter of fact, by bringing in former under-20 player and former Liberty midfielder Kennedy Ashia. So their Ashanti Gold team, you know, it's promising, and for them to have gone away to win 1-0, I think they duly deserved it. They've also brought in an experienced administrator to help in the running of the club, and the former 11 Wonder CEO, Albert Komi, who has a lot of experience in the Ghanaian top flight and is a good addition to this Ashanti Gold team, and is going to really help them in the course of the season.
So Nana, hopefully we see Ashanti Gold, how they're going to fare this season, and also be looking forward to what comes out of the match fixing scandal that took place last season. But we take a breather and we are back to look out for what to expect on match day 2 of the Ghana Premier League. Don't go anywhere. So welcome back to GPL Express here on TV3 with me, Juliet Bill, and I still have Nana Jesse Dakwa with me. Nana, we're looking ahead to match day 2 of the Ghana Premier League. I'm sure you clearly are looking ahead to that Wafa Hatzabuk match.
It's a big game. Both failed to win on day 1. For Wafa, 3 points lost. Hatzabuk dropped valuable 2 points at home. And Hatzabuk's last defeat in the Premier League was at that same venue, on the coronation day when Wafa beat them 1-0 to go third on the league's log to clinch that position. They are without the coach who masterminded that feat. Hatzabuk still have their main man, Samuel Boedu, and nothing really has changed from the quality that Hatzabuk possess from what they did in the last season that got them the league title. But Sogakope is always a difficult territory for opposing teams, and this Friday will not be different. It's a close contest, and if it ends in a draw, I wouldn't be surprised.
We'll be picking some of the matches, but the next match that I want us to talk about briefly is the Kumasi Asante Kotoko match, and they'll be going back to Babayara, where they've been out of that place for quite some time, and they'll be playing host to Bichim United, who on the first day gave Mediama some thrashing.
Yes, you know, an exciting homecoming for Asante Kotoko. New coach, new players, and majority of these new players have not played at the Babayara Stadium before, even if they have played not in the jerseys of Asante Kotoko. So, you know, that pride of representing Kotoko at that iconic venue, if you don't take care, could also be something that could put pressure on these guys to deliver.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they have a coach who has what it takes to psych them up, to know the enormity of the task ahead of them if you play for Asante Kotoko. So I think it's going to be a very good game. I won't take anything away from Bichim United, but Kotoko at the Babayara Stadium, first time in many months, is a tall mountain for Bichim to climb.
And we have Great Olympics and also Accra Lions coming up. I'm sure it will be interesting because it's almost looking like a mini derby.
A mini derby, I was just about to say that. A new derby in its own form. 2 Accra-based teams, all of them using the same venue. Great Olympics. They only lost Glass in Awaku. And even in the Premier League last season, when Awaku was absent, it really didn't take anything massive away from the team. They've reinforced. They brought in Kwame Boateng. They brought in Michael Samoa from Ebusia Dwarfs, and they've done some decent signings. Accra
Right.
Lions are going to meet an Accra Great Olympic side who are playing for the first time at the Accra Stadium in a new season. Difficult one for the new boys.
And also the final match I want us to look at is the BBN Eagle Stars match and Mediama.
It's also some kind of a derby. Both teams are based in the western part of the country. Mediama have lost heavily, one of the biggest defeats in the history of the club. But unfortunately for Mediama, they are not playing in Takwa. They are playing in Cape Coast because their venue was partially rejected by the club licensing board. So for Ghost Stars, it will feel like a neutral grounds playing Mediama, but you get a feeling that Moses Parker will be demanding a reaction from this team. The president can't see his team go 2 games,
Right.
without a win, and there's pressure on Ignatius Fosu to get the team back to winning ways. And if Bibiani Ghost Stars are able to put the plugs on Mediama, then they will be the team to watch as far as the debutants are concerned. But I expect a positive reaction from Mediama.
And the table is also looking interesting. It's just one match, but they've started talking about Kumasi Asante Kotoko, Bichim United here and there. But I'm sure that after match week 2, we'll also get to see how the table is also shaping up. I'm sure you're also looking forward to that.
Yes, but I expect Kotoko to still be at the top by match day 2 or after match day 2.
Right.
I do not see them losing against Bichim United. So we might have, Asante Kotoko on top and, by maybe 1 point margin. But I do not see Bichim causing an upset in Kumasi.